And I was sick of it. I was sick of being disempowered or feeling that way or giving my power away, because we give it away. What do you do when you stand up to the narcissist or a psychopath even? Did you do it? Be careful. You know what I'm talking about. You've probably read enough. You've probably watched enough videos on this, haven't you? About the way that they may react to a blow to the ego. If you assert your boundaries, maybe. Honor yourself. Maybe you did it with tact, maybe you didn't. And the way that they will handle that blow to their ego will be very different from many other people. And that may make you afraid. I want to clap, but I also know how uncomfortable this is. And sometimes, well, let's see. Most of the time, the best thing to do is get the F out of Dodge. Why? Because you're probably in an unsafe position. It depends on the degree of narcissistic explosion that they're going into. You probably know what I'm talking about by now, but I also know just how uncomfortable this is and just how dangerous this also might be. You can risk many things when you stand up for your boundaries, when you say no, etc., in front of a narcissist, or even worse, perhaps, I mean, all psychopaths are narcissists, in front of a psychopath. In this video, I'm going to walk you through some steps to recovering from being on the end of a narcissistic rage, as they call it. When we put our boundaries down, sometimes they don't take it very easily, right? And they go into some kind of rage. It's happened to me. And it's happened several times. And I want to also share with you a way for you to maybe prevent having them react to you. Really, the answer for starters, you're usually better off, if you haven't figured this out yet, you're usually better off just getting the F out of Dodge and out of their realm. But there's something here for you to heal, some kind of wound that's drawn this experience into your reality. You've drawn it in. And I'm sorry if that ruffles some feathers around here, because a lot of us don't want to take responsibility for our birthright as conscious creators, and would prefer to stay in an unconscious victim mode. You see, the flip side of being a conscious creator is to be an unconscious victim. To be a victim, that everything is happening to you instead of for you. And yes, this would have really upset me in the past. I won't lie. It would have, even though I've been on this journey. It's 13 years of healing. And it used to really upset me when I'd hear about, the word victim upset me, but it also upset me, it upset me to think of myself as a victim, but I also wanted to be a victim because I wanted this validation that what had happened to me was wrong. And here's the thing, is that you may not get that validation from anyone else outside of you. I'm going to share a little story here. I could share many of them actually about this, about standing up in front of psychopaths and narcissists. But there's one that really comes to my head that's really inspired this video, because this woman just flashed into my head last night. I said, what am I going to talk about today? Oh, Wendy Ward. The tale of Wendy Ward. Excuse me, as I'm editing this, I think it should be like the tale of Wendy Ward. In 2018, I was looking for a new acting coach, and I found this woman on the internet. I was exploring Meisner, and I do not care to put this woman's name out here in this video. She's actually dead now. This is interesting. She died. This is so epic. She's such a good narcissist that she actually filmed a video before her death, coming to terms with it and sending it out. It's on YouTube, you can look it up. She sent it out to everyone, and I was like, damn, Wendy, you did it. You're a class act, Wendy. I know it sounds sarcastic, but I was like, that's pretty badass. I learned so much from this woman in a short space of time, and it cost me a couple of grand. So let's tell you this tale. So I was looking for a new coach, and I was falling in love with the Meisner method at that time. And I really enjoy the Meisner method. And I found her online. And she, of course, had a lot of mostly 5-star reviews, like nothing bad I could find at that moment. And we had a coaching call, and I was like, it was great. She was amazing over the phone. I mean, over Zoom. She was amazing. And I was just like progressing. And so she's like, you should really come to North Carolina. She was like, she did these like intensives in Chapel Hill. And I was like convinced, like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go. So I went up to Chapel Hill, and I spent about $2,500 for this intensive. And when I got there, she was like super nice to me, by the way, on Zoom. Okay. Keep this in mind. They always are in the beginning, aren't they? Until it all just goes to SHIT. They can't keep the mask on for too long. So about a week into the classes, I was starting to think like something's off. She was a master actress. She really was. She could cry at the drop of a pin, and she could change her emotion from crying to being in the state of joy. And then but I started to notice that she would always pick a scapegoat. Have you heard of this yet? Narcissists always pick someone who is going to be the bottom of the barrel for them, who's going to be the scapegoat, who's going to take the blow, that they're going to deflect, as it's called, all their blame onto this person or their anger, okay? That's what they do because they cannot take responsibility for it. And, this is also, side note, why it's all about taking responsibility to really step into your role as a creator. It's like, why am I drawing this person into my atmosphere? Okay? Because it's easy to point the finger at the narcissist or someone else who's wronged us and forget about our practice and how we've signed up for this personal development here. Sometimes it's super fun, and sometimes it's like so painful till, we get different lessons, right? So yeah, I noticed that she came up with this scapegoat, and it was this woman named Donna at first. And she like whipped this woman into place one day, and I saw, just this, that no one said anything. Everyone was totally quiet in the class, and no one, it just wasn't right. It was like she ripped her a new one, and in a way that was like, this is a little bit abusive, I think. Am I seeing this? So something was off. I would see sometimes she would kind of go off on people here and there, and she wouldn't explain certain things when we asked her for a little more clarification. The next thing that came up is she was choosing me next as a scapegoat. She had sometimes they'll pick one that's like the main one, and they'll pick like a buffer. Like, who knows, maybe that person may not tolerate it, and they'll have to have another one who they can take their anger out on, right? Another person. And that was me at that. There might have been some other people here and there, but it was me. And around that first week, we were doing all these different scenes, and I got this scene where the character is putting some kind of boundary down or something, and things got real. And I had this like trauma response that came up. And after the scene had ended, it was like really good. Everyone was like, wow. And she was like, that was great. Because it was so real, of course. It triggered something in me. And I sat back down, and I could not control my tears from coming out. By that year, 2018, that was 7 years out of an abusive relationship, and I was doing healing work since the start. And this stuff, like I'm saying in a lot of these videos, it can take years to heal when I say that, but don't let that discourage you. I'm so happy that you're here. I'm really celebrating you. It's this journey, like, trust me. I want to say trust me. Trust is a choice, It gets so rich. Because your survival strategies can become, if you choose and you cultivate it, they can become your biggest strengths in life and become that's what you're here to alchemize if you choose to, okay? So As I sat down and the tears were coming out, and she looked over at me, dead in the eyes, and was like, this needs to stop right now. And she was like, have you been abused? Like, just said it outright. And I was like, yeah, somebody abused me once. And she was like, this is totally unprofessional. You need to control your emotions, and like made a big stink about it. And I was like, okay, you know. And at the time it kind of sank in, because I was like, I really wanted to hone my craft, and I was like, I loved acting, and fortunately I always had like really, really cool, nice acting coaches, like people who were not narcissists. Thank goodness, because I had a blueprint of what this is. It doesn't need to be, okay? And you see it all the time. Proof is in the pudding in Hollywood. It's full of narcissists and psychopaths. And people will do anything in Hollywood to go up to the top so that they can get basically some unmet need, usually, that was from their childhood. They want attention, which there's nothing wrong with attention, okay? It's a personality need for some people. But when you're settling so low for attention, and from attention from the wrong people, and I'm just gonna say wrong people who treat you like crap, you're going to the wrong place, hon. You know, you're going to the wrong place. Take it to the right door, not the wrong door. One of the things she was doing also while she was teaching is like the grandiose thing. She would talk about how she was Meisner's best student. She's like one of the only ones who can still teach Meisner, like really teach what he taught today. There she was, she practiced every day, all day long. When everyone else was out partying, she was practicing grandiose self-comparisons to others, putting them down. You see, you follow, right? This was week 1. And I started to think and feel something is weird, something's off. So that weekend, I decided to go on a deep search through the internet to find out if there was any kind of evidence to support my assumption that she may just be a raging narcissist. I couldn't find anything. Spoiler alert, I would find something. There would just have to be some more casualties before I did. Casualties and life lessons and tests. Opportunities, if you will. Fast forward to the second week, and we're in this one class, and we're doing, as ironic as this sounds, because I talk a little bit about how I've had a journey in 12-step groups in the past. We're in this scene where it's like a 12-step program group. And till this day, I cannot remember what my lines were or what this was about. But she didn't like the way that I said something. And I said it again. She started taking out her anger on me. The funny thing about this is that I had in the past 2 modes as a fearful avoidant attachment style. And I could really elaborate on this if you're one as well, as if you're healing this. The first mode would be to be totally a total pushover in freeze response or fawn response, appeasing people, people pleasing, feeling powerless and trapped, and going into fight response, maybe being a brat, being in complete like fly off the handle mode, like my father, who, yes, we could diagnose him with a couple personality disorders, including narcissism. You know, these are genetic things. Like, I'm going to say genetic, but it's like in your DNA, it's in your there's ancestral trauma, right? There's nature and nurture where we get to heal them too. Okay, we get to heal them. So you pick up these traits in your childhood. You may pick it up also in your ancestry, like in your DNA. But don't let that discourage you either, because if you're here, you are able to actually reprogram your DNA. And I know some people are like, where's the science? If you're asking that, you're probably in the wrong channel, okay? This is all about holistic. We're talking about mind, body, and soul. So she chose me in that moment as a scapegoat. She chose me, and she started taking out her anger on me. And by then I had been practicing this amazing practice, which is called observe, don't absorb. I had practiced it on a few different narcissists in the past, and it was like this incredible enlightening thing. And I'll share it with you. And I didn't develop this. I'll give credit where credit's due. It's from Ross Rosenberg. You can look him up on here. He's a leading expert in recovery from narcissistic abuse. And He talks about how when you're in front of the narcissist and they're playing the victim, they're berating you or whatever this is, you start to become conscious, uh-oh, this is happening. Code red. Put on your lab coat. This gives you some distance and some space away from this person. And it puts you in this mindset like you're in the lab and that you're observing them. You're not going to absorb that energy, any of that. There's all other energetic techniques I can say here, but this one was one that I really started off strong in the past with. And when the narcissist would go into a rage or whatever, I would observe and not absorb. And this really, really works. So do it as soon as you can remember. And remember, awareness is like 90% of the healing. Sometimes we think we didn't do good enough at putting our boundary down, but it starts somewhere. It starts with the baby steps, maybe. And if you can't walk, crawl. So she started yelling at me and taking out her anger, right? And I just put on this lab coat and I was like, I had already had a lot of practice shots with a brother that abused me in the past. I had a practice shots with a narcissistic friend that I used to hang out with years before that. And I decided to just say calmly, I would appreciate it if you didn't yell at me. Could you talk more calmly to me? Well, this just got her into more of a rage. And I asked it again. I said it again. This got her into even more of a rage where she said, that's it, class is dismissed. Everybody go to lunch now. And she walked out with us and goes, you didn't see anything here. Nobody saw anything here. So as she's gaslighting everyone basically on what they saw or didn't see, she looks at me and she says, if you want to come back to class, you're going to have a private meeting with me. And I was just like thinking in my head, absolutely not. What? So that you can ream me out more? I was like, are you kidding me? This is textbook. Because, I had been practicing and studying this behavior for years to overcome this because I never wanted it to happen again. And I was sick of it. I was sick of being disempowered or feeling that way or giving my power away because we give it away. And sometimes it is the right thing to do is to get the F out of Dodge and cut our losses. There's a lot of videos going around online that upset me a bit. Getting passionate and fired up here, right? That it's like how to get the narcissist back or like how to like get back at them. It's like, no. You know how you get back at them? You honor yourself and you get out of there. Really. And I have to be careful saying this with like get out of there because someone watching this may be in an abusive relationship. You do want to be careful. Start planning, I'd say. I'm giving advice here, but it's like plan your escape carefully. You may have been planning it for years. And this is another video I may make. We all go to lunch and everyone, I was like, I don't remember what was said, but I was just like really quiet and I was like, this is, I can't believe she did that. And everybody just says, well, it was you, like you, and I was like, what do you mean it was me? Everybody in the class, except for Donna, if you remember from the beginning of the story, took her side because they all were so desperate that they had their noses real far up into her, They were brown nosing as much as possible because that's what happens in a lot of acting academies, is that some people, they want to get to the top. They're so damn desperate for this. And this is the thing that I would say, if you're a fearful avoidant, there is this flip side of like, you may be love addicted. We'll get into love addiction in another video. You may be love addicted to a person. And you will swing from being a little anxious where you need to have them and then feeling like this is so pathetic and feeling angry. You can use that actually to your advantage, to not stoop so low to be pathetic or whatever, but don't berate yourself over that feeling. Okay? This is hard for me to iterate, and I'm trying my best here. I hope you follow, and it lands, but I can't control how it lands with some. So if you receive it, you receive it. So then as we were going back to the class, Donna gave me a ride actually, and I was like, this is really uncomfortable or something. I don't remember what I said. And she's like, you know how it is. You either like basically shut up and submit, or she's going to keep doing this to you. Like, we know how these people are, she said. And I was like, she was like, you know how she did it to me too. I was like, yeah. Well, let's just say I've never been that good of a submissive. As you may know, I'm a dominatrix, and I would say it's like part of like an archetypal energy in me that I'm not going to stomach this. In fact, I would say subconsciously, maybe I chose to go become a dominatrix. And because it was, you know, when my monk said this years ago, like, yeah, you did it to get your power back. And I was like, no, I didn't, Jojo, come on. And then it dawned on me during my Kundalini awakening. I was like, oh my God, like I totally did this subconsciously to get my power back because I didn't want to be submissive. And I sometimes I would stand up for myself and I'd get beat down. You've got to be careful. You know, some people say pick your battles, right? Sometimes the finest battle won is where you do get the F out of Dodge. Where you cut your losses, as it's called, which is what I did. This is what I did. So, all right, not yet though. So we get back to the acting academy and I stroll my ass into class and sit down, and she starts teaching the class, and about 30 seconds in or something, she looks at me and goes, didn't I tell you that you're not allowed to be here until we have a private meeting? And I just said, yeah. And I just stood up and I walked out. I went back to the rental, which she actually hooked me up with, messaged the dude who I was renting from, who was one of her students. And I was like, hey man, I actually have to leave. Is there any possibility that you might refund the rest of my week's money? And he was really cool. He actually did. That was nice of him. I told my partner at the time what happened. I was like, she's like a complete narcissist. And as I said, you know what I just found last night online? I kid you not. It was like this was not shown in my reality before I had done this, before this whole incident. I did an even deeper search of the internet. And I found some legit reviews of people, just a few, that addressed her abusive behaviors. And then I also found this thing that I can't find today. I don't know if I can't, maybe it's off the internet, but it was this like whole, she had moved from, she worked in New York City, and then I don't know what happened there, but she went over to Australia and was teaching there. And in Australia, there was this whole thing that I found online that was like actors beware of Wendy Ward. And it was like this whole like collectivizing that they were getting all of them together. It was like an invite to do something about it and make some attention so that people knew like she was terrible to work with and she was abusive. So anyway, I got up to New York and I met up with my step-gran, who is like the original dominatrix, I call her. And I told her what happened, and she was like, well, here we are sipping martinis, and I'm sure that bitch is like, she's funny, okay? She's a funny one. But yeah, I had to get over it, and I had to cut my losses. And I'm sorry to say get over it. Sometimes it's an insensitive thing to say, but I did. I had to accept that it was a non-refundable money, by the way. Okay, it was non-refundable. I wasn't getting my $2,000+ back. That this lesson cost me $2,500. It's not just a lesson. It was an opportunity. An opportunity that I paid $2,500, maybe plus, you know, whatever else for. And you know what? I'm grateful for it till today. I'm really grateful for it. Yeah, I wanted to continue on with the Meisner method. That was worth it. One of the morals of the story is that not everyone is going to see the behavior. Not everybody is going to support your decision or understand it. You may be alone. This is an opportunity to self-validate, actually. To self-validate your boundaries and needs. Not everyone is going to see it. Not everyone is going to validate you. You may be completely alone in this. And it's very funny because as I'm making this video, I wanted to get up the reviews. And it was like I was maybe the initiator of telling her, like, no, this is not happening in front of me. And I'm not okay with it because there's 2 negative reviews here that were posted in 2019, which I just read. It's not just me, but it's some people. It's some people who see it. Actually, let's read this. I love the way he wrote it at the end, especially. This is the final part of this guy's review. Overall, she's an unbelievably narcissistic and condescending woman who I consider myself unlucky to have met. She does not teach, she insults. And anyone who doesn't bend to her will or dares to question her is automatically made an enemy, not just for her, but for the entire class. Scapegoat much? I can say confidently she is one of the worst people I have ever met. Do not take classes here. Save your own mental health. Words of wisdom, save your own mental health. I would say save your own energetic health too, but we'll leave it there. He gave examples and proofs of how he was singled out in this review. So there you have it, folks. Sometimes we draw these lessons and opportunities into our reality in order to heal something, in order to repattern something, in order to stand up for ourselves. And maybe it's in a way that is walking away and cutting our losses. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you practice the observe and don't absorb thing. You can do this also when you're getting a guilt trip from the narcissist. And if you have been guilt tripped, you can look at that video above. There's a couple that I've been making on guilt, and there'll probably be a whole series, who knows? Because if you're here, you probably are suffering from a little bit of the guilt stuff. And it ain't a good look, hun. It ain't a good look. All right, I love you. I hope you're taking care of yourself and doing some beautiful, delicious, holistic self-care. And if you like this video, give it a like. It will help others also find the channel. And if you want to stay connected, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Mwah.